Well, you know, when I first, it's interesting because when I first came in to do Tokyo Drift, you know, a lot of the conversation with Vin and with a lot of the cast and studio was that if we can earn our way into more movies, we were going to hopefully evolve these characters and also acknowledge that, you know, they're maturing, and so that the obstacles can kind of alter and evolve with them. And so it's great to be sitting here 8 years later to be basically wrapping everything up. You know, this is the culmination of everything we talked about 8 years ago. Yeah, I mean, on a personal level, I always want to challenge myself and use everything that I've learned and just always try to take it to the next level. And that's part of the fun. And at the same time, I think every chance we get to make another one, it's a privilege. You know, it's something that we've earned, that people have embraced and want to see, and I want to make sure that we deliver that. But I think at the heart of it is not losing sight of the fact of why this franchise is successful, and evolve that, you know, evolve that theme of family. And what is it about the idea of family? Is it about freedom, trust, sacrifice? All these themes are very rich and important, and we have a lot of characters to explore that through. And so I think as we've grown, this thing has been mapped out to be, you know, the 4, 5, and 6 was always mapped out to really explore these characters that we met in the first 3 Fast and Furious movies. And so naturally, when you do that, it's just going to keep growing. And I think that's the best way to not force it, make it artificial, is to let it grow on its own. You know, part of bringing Letty back, you know, we were talking about that all the way back to when we were doing Fast 4, you know, and I think if you can do that thematically and you can do that correctly, people will actually accept that. You know, I know it sounds crazy when you first hear about it, but I think a lot of the seeds were planted early on, and so that when she comes back in 6, it's about finding, you know, not only the real clues on why she's alive, but you realize it was actually designed thematically for both Brian and Dom in dealing with their, you know, in their themes of trust, and also at the same time why in the last 2 movies what drove them and what the guilt that they had to live with. The thing that was exciting to create the character of Shaw was because I think Dom at this point after Fast 5 has become so iconic, not only in character but also in his ideology, you know, his philosophy of family and, you know, loyalty. And so it became very organic to that if you're going to go against that it can't just be a baddie, you know, he just can't be a bad guy. And I think Shaw, I wanted to make sure that there was a character that has a valid philosophy that directly challenges Dom and his. Well, I mean, for an antagonist to come in and really challenge Dom Toretto, you really need a strong actor. And so when Luke Evans, when I found out he was, you know, he was there and he was interested in doing it, that was the first call I made, because I think without Luke Evans, you know, you just won't have really the depth, you won't have the strength to be able to kind of counter someone of Vin's stature. The idea of coming back to do Fast 6 and making it the culmination of this chapter of Fast and Furious was definitely a challenge, but I felt it was important and it was a challenge worth taking, you know. But I knew that kind of going in. So the plane sequence, for example, there's actually 7 action sequences going on at once, but that was being designed back in '09. I've had 4 years to design that, and I knew that everything was going to end with the plane sequence. But at the same time, there was challenges even in, you know, a lot of the fight scenes, and those were designed for character moments, you know. And just organically, I think as we were wrapping up Fast 5 going to Fast 6, it was great because, again, it was not artificial in saying that we need it to be bigger, we need more. It just, because we were bringing all the characters back, it just felt like they all needed to prove a certain, you know, point in where they are in their arc, and it just became very organic to design all that. Yeah, I mean, I think after we saw how much people love the vault, I mean, we sat in our room and I thought, okay, well, what if someone could drive the vault and the vault can fire? And you thought, oh, well, naturally, let's try a tank. So we went and got a tank, got some cars, and as soon as I saw the interaction between the tank and the car, I knew we had something. And then having the Spanish government allow us to own 19 kilometers of a highway, then it just became fun. Well, I think at its core, the girl fight, it's been dubbed, it was crucial in the sense that it was the first step for Letty's arc of trust and self-discovery, you know, and so it was designed that way, and to fulfill that, you know, I needed Michelle to really basically do the whole fight herself, and, you know, of course, then I brought in Gina, who we know can do everything herself. And it took about 2-3 months of them rehearsing and rehearsing and rehearsing, and just redesigning that to make sure that it really fulfilled the where we needed to be for Letty as the character. But at the same time, I think a lot of the crew, you could feel the excitement, because I think everybody was kind of feeling that it could challenge and then potentially be the best female fight in cinema, you know. And I think, not to boast or anything like that, I think that's a challenge worth taking, you know. And so everybody from, you know, Gina and Michelle and the crew, like, everyone stepped up to make that happen, because we knew the significance of that sequence and what it could be for the film, but also for cinema as a whole. You know, when I first came into Tokyo Drift, I remember the big challenge was putting a Nissan engine in a Mustang, and it took a lot of work to make that happen. And since then, you know, with Dennis McCarthy, you know, I would just keep throwing him more challenges. But what was really exciting about Fast and Furious 6 is that as I was developing the character of Shaw, I realized this is not a character that would modify a car. This is a character that would actually build a car. And so when I went to Dennis, I said, hey, I need you to design a car, but not only as from ground up, but it's going to need to flip other cars. You know, he took it upon himself, and I remember he came back with this design with an SUV, and it was a huge ramp. And I thought, okay, well, that's great, but this doesn't fit the character. We need it to be more sleek, and we're in Europe. Let's use the F1 as the inspiration. And within hours, he came back with the flip car design that now you see in the film. And for me, as soon as I saw it, I knew it was perfect, because it was functional, it was efficient, it was everything I wanted for the character of Shaw, and it became the perfect metaphor for him to bring that to life. You know, after Fast 5, I traveled around the world to find, you know, the next, you know, city to really kind of explore the Fast franchise. And as soon as I landed in London, you know, it just felt like the right place. London is huge, but it's very multi-ethnic, it's very diverse, and it just has a lot of history, you know. And just seeing that, I felt like, wow. Even just walking in Piccadilly Circus, you know, I remember thinking, wouldn't it be cool? Part of my life, it's been such a big part of my career. I've grown up, you know, making Fast and Furious films, and it's become a big part of my growth as a filmmaker, you know. So, and it's also allowed me to basically be in a place right now that I can do a lot of different things, and all this I owe to this franchise. So it's quite emotional to now walk away from it, you know. And at the same time, I'm very grateful that it's been a choice that I get to make, to be able to come in the franchise, help evolve it and build it to a point where now it's at its peak, and to say, okay, well, I've done everything. I want to see another filmmaker come in and do it. It means a lot, you know. It's not bittersweet in the sense that well, you're getting pushed or this is not doing so well. We're at the top of the game, and I feel like it's in great shape, and I can't wait to see what another filmmaker is going to take this franchise, the direction it's going to take this franchise.